Hello, I have officially become every woman's worst nightmare. That's right, I am officially recording my first ever podcast. This is so surreal. I have no idea what I'm doing. Do I think anyone will listen to this? No. But to the one person who is listening, hi, Mum, I love you very much. I started this podcast because, just like every other 12-year-old, I was obsessed with Wattpad when I was a kid. Like, I was reading things I definitely should not have been reading. Their tongues battled for dominance. They were on their hands and knees for 2 days straight. I was up in there. But I wasn't just reading fanfics, I was also writing my own fanfiction. At one point, I even wrote a fanfiction that was a student teacher fic about Harry Styles and my own mother. I'm really sorry, Mum. I promise nothing bad happened. I just had to use someone as a muse, and you were the first person I had in my mind. But anyway, I was a pretty regular Wattpad writer. I think I thought that my books were going to get picked up and turned into movies and I'd make mega bucks, but unfortunately they were just really awful books and they haunt me forever. So I've decided that on this podcast, I am going to finally go back into my Wattpad account and read all of the books that I wrote at the ripe age of 12. I am actually terrified to do this. Last night on my Instagram, I asked what you wanted me to read. I gave 3 options. There was a Dan and Phil fanfiction, there was a 5 Seconds of Summer fanfiction, and there was a Troye Sivan one. And you all voted for none other than Dan and Phil. So today we are going to be reading my book titled Cancer. You may be wondering, Jorja, why the fuck did you write a book called Cancer? And to be fair, that's a valid question to ask. And I have a theory, which is that at the time that I was writing this book, I think 21 Pilots had just released their cover of My Chemical Romance's song Cancer, and I was obsessed with it. Like, it is all I listened to. And I think I was just like listening to it in my feels, and I was like, oh my God, imagine if Dan Howell had cancer. And then, like anyone would do, I wrote a book about it. So, without further ado, let's open up this Wattpad account and read Cancer. I'm so terrified. I've just pulled it up and there is a summary of what the book is about. So, let's have a read. Dan is a surviving cancer patient who has recently been given the okay to head back to school. School contains a whole bunch of struggles for him: concentration, trying to get rid of his procrastination, and Philip Lester, the boy who likes to make his life hell, the one who hides behind himself in order to make him feel better about himself. Dan deals with the bullying on an appropriate level, though what happens when the bullying becomes too much? What will happen when Dan is told his cancer is coming back? Heartache, heartbreak, and loss. Is a life really worth saving? You can tell that I've 100% just read The Fault in Our Stars. It is shining through. I'm so nervous to read this book. It is only 5 chapters and I don't think I ever completed it. But it was written on the 20th of July, 2016. I was 14 years old. I was too old to be doing this kind of thing. Okay. Let's get into this. Chapter 1, Back to School. Dan's point of view. Waking up was always the hardest part of the day. The idea of reality becoming something that disappointed me greatly. The idea of tearing myself apart from this dream state where everything seemed possible, my disease no longer a massive part of me, was devastating. Okay, side note, I am terrified about reading this because I feel like I had no education on cancer. I didn't know anyone that had cancer. I don't know where I got any information from. So I feel like this is going to be a really inaccurate representation of cancer. Like, obviously, it's a Dan and Phil fanfic. But anyway, on this very morning, reality became something I never wanted to imagine. My cancer had apparently... What? My cancer had apparently softened. Is that... Can cancer do that? I don't feel like cancer softens. I feel like you go into remission, right? Anyway, my cancer had apparently softened. The doctors informing me that I had a lower amount of cancerous cells, and so they provided me with 1 month of school education. What does that mean? Of course, I'd always gone to school, though recently had to leave often due to the fact that my cancer became overpowering, too hard to deal with. I still remember when they told me I first had cancer. Oh my god, what are you doing, Jorja? Why are you writing this? I'd had this massive feeling in my throat, almost as if there was a lump just laying there, blocking everything that tried to make its way through. Mum had said she'd had enough of my complaining. What? And so she drove me to the doctors. Ah, yes, the time I got diagnosed with cancer because my mum got way too tired of my constant complaining. What the hell? Okay. Everything seemed to be going by in slow motion, almost as if I knew what I was about to face. The doctor had told me that he noticed something peculiar in my throat and would like to do an ultrasound to see if there were any issues. Hold up, can you do an ultrasound of the throat? Is that not just an x-ray? Isn't an ultrasound for the tummy? I feel like it is, right? Anyway, side note, but I had an ultrasound really recently and I was so embarrassed because I'd been on the table for a long time and she'd been like investigating everything in my body and taking all these pictures. And then she said to me, she asked me if I could stand up. And I was lying on a bed and I turned to her and I was like, wait, you want me to stand up? I was real confused. I was like, you want me to stand up? And she goes, yeah, stand up for me. And I did what I thought she was asking me to do, and I stood up on the bed. And we looked at each other, and then she was like, oh my god, no, I meant like stand up on the floor. And I had a wee like laugh and was like, oh my gosh, I just didn't know what you meant. Like I was real confused. And she didn't laugh with me about it. There was no like laughter, nothing to break the tension, and I just awkwardly got off the bed and stood up on the floor, and we just went about the ultrasound. I think about that constantly, and I hope that didn't happen to Dan Howell when he got an ultrasound on his throat. Anyway, let's get back to the action. The hours seemed to pass by slowly. I dreaded hearing the news. He broke it to me quickly, telling me I had thyroid cancer and the lump may grow bigger over the years. For now, he had promised to try and lower the increase of my cancer getting worse, though he couldn't entirely be sure if anything would work. Long story short, it did. The treatment worked, the chemotherapy bringing down the lump piece by piece and slowly lowering the amount of cancer cells that were floating around my body. I never really cared for the details, which is definitely something that 14-year-old me wrote because I didn't have any education about the details. I was too scared to really learn about my disease, case in point, and the idea of death that came alongside it. Though the fear of people finding out was more extreme to me, the sympathy, the looks from people who never really cared, the conversations, the words of those who are relieved that they don't have something as serious as my condition, the questions, the people who had so many things to ask, so much confusion about the idea of cancer and the fear of death. Maybe he should have been afraid of the 14-year-old girls that would hear about this condition and then write fan fiction about it. Guess he didn't see that one coming. Anyway, I dreaded going back to school. Upon arrival, the school already looked grey, the students roaming back and forth throughout the school, never having a smile upon their face. Maybe it was the school and the idea of education, or maybe it leaned more towards the bitchy teachers and hormonal teen girls that littered the school grounds. Whatever it may be, it never made the students happy. No one seemed to notice my return. They were probably unaware of me disappearing entirely. Even if they knew I had gone, the reason would still be unknown to them. They called me a mystery and I called them assholes, and together we moved on with everything. Why the fuck did that go so hard? That would have done numbers on Tumblr. They called me a mystery and I called them assholes. Oh, shut the fuck up. Riverdale would have written that into their script. I just know it. The first class was torture. The drone of the teacher's voice becoming something short to unbearable. What? Short of... Okay, don't know what that means. Though it wasn't just the lectures that made the classes pass by slowly. It was the students. Actually, student. Phil. What? Phil had never been on the good side of me, nor had I been on his good side, though the amount of hatred he had for me always threw me backwards. Ah yes, I love when people's hatred of me throws me backwards. I love when someone hates me and I just get pushed down a flight of stairs by their pure hatred. He never understood that the reason I was gone was because I had cancer. He just assumed that I had a secret love affair, though I was hiding it from the rest of the school. Philip Lester was and always will be a dick. When the fuck has anyone left school and everyone's just assumed that they're having a secret love affair? I have never thought that in my entire life. What does that even mean? Also, the concept of 14-year-old me writing Phil Lester to be an asshole is crazy. That is like the nicest man alive. What the actual fuck? Anyway. Daniel Howell, how nice of you to come back. Finally left your little boyfriend, Phil teased, his eyes narrowing as he walked past me. He always had the decency to tease me as he walked past, though no one appeared to care. Fuck off, Phil. It's literally 8 a.m, I replied, rolling my eyes at him casually. I watched as he took a seat beside Melanie, a blonde-haired girl. What a blonde-haired girl who was always silent. She greeted Phil politely as he sat down before returning to her work immediately. Oh my god, I just read the next sentence and that is unbearable. I don't want to say that. Okay, you're going to have to forgive me for this. Sorry, gay boy, I don't speak your language, Phil replied menacingly, the coldness in his voice being noticed by only me, the words tugging at my heart viciously, tangling it in a battle between happiness and sadness. I definitely thought that line went so hard when I was a kid. I would have been like, oh my god, it's like Rupee Kaur, it's so poetic. Oh well, I sighed before placing my head down onto my book. My throat was sore and I was in too much of a bad mood to really care about Phil at the moment. Phil just rolled his eyes and began to listen to the teacher. My mind couldn't focus on the work. My throat felt like there was something in it and it terrified me. The idea of cancer coming back into my body gave me the freaks. Is that a saying? It gave me the freaks. When I heard that sound outside my door, it really gave me the freaks. That's not a thing, right? I did not want to die so young. With a single raise of my hand, the teacher allowed me to leave the room and call my mother. I left with high spirits, ignoring the gay insult Phil threw at me as I left. Mum wasn't concerned, she never was, though the way she yelled at me through that phone reminded me why I never liked calling her in the first place. Daniel Howell, just because you have been sick before does not give you the right to pretend to be sick just to get a day off. I have faith in you, boy, and you will make it through this day. What will the neighbours think if you come home sick of your first day? They'll think we're bad parents letting our son have this many days off. They'll think you're weak. Okay. I have a feeling that 14-year-old Jorja is just really pushing off her own issues here. Clearly I was anxious and was worried what everyone was going to think about me. Why the fuck would these parents care what the neighbours thought about them? Like, they literally had a son with cancer. If my neighbours had a son with cancer, I wouldn't be fucking in the house counting the days he's taken off school. What? What does this woman have to say now? Now stick your head up. Stop being such a twat. Crazy thing to call your son, but okay. And get inside your classroom, you hear me? She shrieked down the phone line, her loud voice tingling my ears. Yes, Mum, but really, I'm sick. I wouldn't make this up. I had cancer, okay? You can't fake the feeling of getting cancer. I'm feeling horrible and I'm scared that I'm gonna die. Wouldn't you like that? If I just died a young boy? Wouldn't that make you feel great? You never visit me in the hospital anyway. Oh my god. Why would anyone refer to themselves as a young boy? Wouldn't you like it if I died just a wee little whippersnapper? Wouldn't you like that, mother? Oh my god. Anyway, my mother aggravated me to the point where I was nearly boiling. Daniel, you do not speak to your mother like that. I did not raise you to be like this. Now put the phone down, go back inside and deal with whatever nonsense you're feeling. You are not coming home, she yelled before all I could hear was the sound of beeps as she hung up the phone. The day felt long, every class being spent with Phil. He would throw comments at me about my lover and about how I loved the way he would use me. He's such a sick little fuck. What a fucking crazy way to describe someone. He's such a sick little fuck. Though any class with Phil would have been better than returning home. No one was there, though you could still feel the tension of my mother. Sometimes I wish I would die. Which can't be true, because earlier in this chapter he was like, I feel like I'm gonna die. Wouldn't you like it if I died a young lad? And now he's like, fuck, I wish I would die. Wow, this is so deep. And that is the end of chapter 1. I'm so confused. I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to cancer, and it is so obvious. I have a feeling, a theory, if you will, that Phil is being homophobic because he's secretly gay. And like, obviously, I feel like that's what I'm trying to do with the fanfic, but oh my god, I was a sucker for that trope as a kid. But like, that is so bad. Like, it is so awful to be like, yeah, this is just internalized homophobia. And obviously I was kind of probably battling with that myself, because literally a year after I published this fanfic, I came out to my whole family. So, surprise! Anyway, should we move on to chapter 2? I'm terrified about what it may hold. It's only a page long, and it is titled, you're not going to believe this, Freak Speaks Up. This is also in Dan's point of view. Ever noticed how many people surround you at all times during the day? So many conversations and voices that we are all surrounded by that we don't usually hear due to how caught up we are in ourselves. Being back at school just reminded me of the stupidity of our youth. Every single person invested more in the way others see them rather than the way they feel about themselves. You can tell that 14-year-old me had definitely once been told, you are so wise for your age, because the way that I'm writing just makes it seem like I think I'm better than everyone else. And I don't think that. Instead, I have really chronic anxiety and think everyone hates me. But I don't know why my writing has so much ego in it for such a little girl. Anyway, let's see what Dan's up to. I sat at a lunch table surrounded by idiots who stayed to their groups. The groups of people who believe that they are the top shit. Literally 14-year-old me, look at what you're writing. No one seemed to notice that I was even sitting alone. The return of another student not being deemed important. I ate slowly, only allowing myself to eat soft foods. I wasn't allowed the things that everyone else ate. Not because of the cancer, but because of the relationship I had with my parents. They never believed in eating junk food. I understand not wanting your kid to eat junk food, but can you have hard food? Why can't he have a cracker? Why can't he have a slice of toast or a crunchy apple? Why are you only eating puree and soup and ice cream? That doesn't make sense. Wow, the logic of a 14-year-old. I focused on the conversations around me, listening only to the ones that would seem the most pointless, until I spotted him, Phil. He sat at his table surrounded by a large group of girls. He talked with such enthusiasm, his space jacket. Space jacket? What does that mean? Is he in a spacesuit? His space jacket glimmering in the light. He was dressed for winter. I feel like he's dressed for space, mate. Why is he wearing a space jacket? Though he acted as if it was summer. What does that mean? Do you act different what? This is so bizarre. He was interesting to me, though his personality and weak attempts at hatred annoyed me. I didn't want to even look at him, though I couldn't help but tune into his conversation. I listened to him as he talked to everyone about his great plans to start a gaming club. He was telling them about all the people he'd like to invite. I laughed as his voice darkened when he mentioned that he would most definitely not invite me. He began to talk about me and all the things he hated about me. He started by mentioning the way I dressed and continued with the look of my face. He just seemed so gay, you know? So fake. I just know that he is like, oh my god, I cannot say that. Whoa, that is a crazy thing for me to write. Essentially, I'm not going to read this line, but I will give you a summary of what it is. Phil says that Dan is emo and trigger warning, maybe self-harming. That's a really weird thing to write about, and I feel like it was really big at that time that Tumblr really like glamorized depression, and I feel like as young girls it was really like glamorized this concept of being depressed and self-harming, and it was just a really bizarre thing. Like when I was a teenager I was really depressed, but it became like so romanticized to have these thoughts and feelings, and it was just like all of the pictures online of people really struggling with mental health and eating disorders and all of these things. It was so romanticized, and there were all these like aesthetic pictures of it and aesthetic pictures of self-harm and all these things that, like, when you're a young child and you're consuming that and also going through your own things, it makes it really difficult to understand what is appropriate and what isn't. And obviously, like, I definitely was probably reading things on Wattpad that had this kind of language as well, but it's crazy to think what the internet was like back then. And I still think we have a little bit of that now, but I don't think stuff like this really exists anymore. So it's really crazy to think that that was the mindset that I was in. Anyway, I'm going to continue, but I'm just going to skip this part, but just know that that's what I referenced. As Phil spoke, his face became heavier with every word that flew out of his mouth. Philly? What is he, a bloody cheesesteak? Anyway, Philly, being gay isn't bad. Dan is just different. Maybe you should try talking to him and then you'll get to know him. A girl at his table spoke up, her brown hair falling in front of her eyes as she spoke. Phil laughed at her comment, his eyes shining. Speak to that freak? Never. Oh my goodness, Ellie, you make me laugh. He was full on giggling by this point, his laughs being heard by everyone. I'd had enough at this point, and I'd finished my meal of basically nothing. Yeah, because you're only eating puree, mate. Like, of course, what do you expect? I breathed in deep and stood to go and walk to him. The girls at his table noticed me walking towards him, their eyes widening as I approached. I just sent them a smile. Sent them a smile? What, you opened up your Facebook and bloody drew out the emoji? What do you mean you sent them a smile? I adjusted my shirt before leaning over to talk to Phil. You know, this freak just heard everything you'd said. No, Philip, I am not gay, but thanks for paying an interest in me. Whoa, I cannot say the next line. The next line in this novel says, I'll think about you while I'm and if you can fill in the blanks from what I said earlier, then you'll know what it is, and it is not something a 14-year-old girl should have written. Holy dang! See you later, lover boy, I winked as I walked away, making sure to walk in stride. My throat was killing me, though I hid it with a smile as I walked back into the school hall. I heard people laughing in the background, and as I turned around, I saw an angry Phil glaring at me. What a day to be alive. That was so dark, and I sincerely hope that nothing like that comes up again, but that is so bizarre that that was something I was writing about at that time. Wow, okay. Chapter 2 is titled Freak Speaks Up, and the third chapter is called Ice Cream and Chill. Let's get into it. Dan's point of view. Weekends are the hardest things, the silence driving me insane. My parents were never around, their jobs and business affecting the way they paid attention to our family. The silence always messed with my head, my mind becoming more active whenever there was no noise. It started when I first got cancer, the darkness of death messing with my head. The darkness of death? That would be like a crazy punk band name. Hey everyone, we are the darkness of death. Welcome to the fucking void. Let's jam out until we fucking die. Let's go! Is that what punk bands sound like? I actually have no idea. I am too scared to listen to punk music. I think it would be too overstimulating. But if you're in the punk band industry and you're looking for a new lead singer, I'm your girl. I'm right here. Let's get back into this. I'd always thought about death. The reason of my existence, though, whenever it was silent, I tend to think more than I should. It was overwhelming, usually leaving my body shaking and my eyes watering. I never had support during these times either, preferring for this to be private. To distract myself from these toxic thoughts, I decided to go out and get some air. With a pocket full of money, I got a pocket full of sunshine. I got a love and I know that's all I know. Oh, Easy A, who's seen it? Who out there watching their Easy A? At this time of my life, I fell asleep to Easy A every single night. So that really says a lot about me. This is so irrelevant. Anyway, with a pocket full of money and a body dressed in jet black clothes, I headed outside. The air was hot, the sun beating down on my body, making my clothes stick to my body. My hair was blowing in the wind running down onto my neck. I reached the entrance of the store within a few minutes. Holy fuck, he loves... Whoa. Oh, no, wait, he ran. I thought I was going to say he lives really close. Anyway, I reached the entrance of the store within a few minutes, the doors opening for me instantly. My black shoes hitting the floor created a loud noise, though it fell unheard as I walked through the store. Aisle upon aisle stocked with food made my eyes grow wider, every section filled with fatty food I couldn't wait to feast on. Hold it? I thought you could only eat soft foods. What do you mean you're looking at these fatty foods thinking, oh, I'll chow down on that? You can't chow down on anything but a little bit of apple puree, mate. Oh my gosh, the inconsistencies in the novel written by a 14-year-old girl. I reached an aisle containing numerous tubs of ice cream. Okay, that makes sense, because ice cream is a soft food. No chocolate chips for this guy. I grabbed the cheapest option, shivering as the cold air hit my body. The customers in the store all looked so bored, their eyes falling to their carts as they made their way throughout the store. I made my way through all of the personalities, analyzing each one to a certain extent before finally reaching the counter. What the fuck does that mean? Yes, today I went to the supermarket and I analyzed every single personality to a certain extent. I get my eyes down as I place the ice cream onto the counter, not ready to meet the cashier's eyes in fear of their judgment. I know I shouldn't be buying unhealthy food. What the fuck? Why would anyone at the supermarket give a flying fuck about what you're buying? I heard a small chuckle and a whisper of the F slur before I raised my eyes. There he was, Phil. He laughed at me and my posture as he scanned the ice cream, making sure his movements were slow. How does that help bullying? Can you only bully in slow motion? Like, why is he moving slowly? Why do you have to do that? Gay boy decided to get himself some junk. What, boyfriend not delivering? Phil teased, his head throwing back as he cracked up laughing. I just glared at him, reaching into my pocket to grab money for him. Oh my god, the cashier is Phil. I thought he was just in the store. Okay, alright, this makes more sense. So confusing. I just needed to get some food. Have you really got to be so rude? Why you gotta be so rude? Dan Howell just breaks into a musical number in the middle of the supermarket. I shook my head as I spoke, honestly disappointed in his behavior. What in the 40-year-old man is that? Sorry, gay boy. You can go home and cry to your mummy now. Phil laughed as he handed me my money, making sure to cough all over it. Ooh, why the fuck did he do that? Go fuck yourself, Phil, I spat before leaving the store. Just the look of his face made me want to die. Oh, it's so angsty. At home, there was still no one around, meaning the silence of the house still remained. I was alone, and alone time came the never-ending thoughts. I could feel my hand shaking on the cold counter of the ice cream, though my mind refused to acknowledge it. Questions ran through my mind vividly. The idea of death and life becoming two separate things. What? Okay. It was terrifying, and I felt myself in a zone where all I wanted was to escape. What's the point in living? Why are you here, Dan? Who will care about you when you're dead? What happens when we die? We don't know anything. You don't know anything, Dan. He's probably emo. Fuck off, Phil. Stop corrupting my thoughts. Shut up. Just because your lover left you to die. Death, die. Look at your legs shaking, pathetic wimp. Oops, there goes your vision. That sounds like an Eminem lyric. Oh, there goes your vision. Look at your legs shaking, you pathetic little wimp. Death, die. Death, die. Just because your lover left you to die. Eminem, I don't know if you're looking for someone to join you on tour, but if you're needing a rapper, I am available. That was a little demo about what I can do for you. But if you give me a call or message me on Instagram at Jorjabaylee, I will let you know anything you want to know about me. And I mean anything. Okay, this is crazy. I wake up quickly, my head shooting up. I can't believe that I passed out again. The voice is becoming too much. They always happened after I'd seen Phil, after he has said something, though this time they were more severe, pounding my head. My head aches and all I want is to leave. I feel the world going black around me, and then I'm back to sleep again. Night, night, world. Hello, voices. Damn. That is so deep. Night, night, world. Hello, voices. That is, this thing is so unbearable. I think I'm just trying so hard to be angsty, but I had no life experience in being angsty. I mean, I was still probably playing Club Penguin at this point. This is crazy. Anyway, the next chapter is titled Mama Never Cared, which should have been obvious with how she spoke to Dan on the phone earlier, but regardless, let's get into it. Again, we're in Dan's point of view. When I was first diagnosed with cancer, the doctors told me that I shouldn't get too attached to any of the other patients in the children's hospital. Hospital? What am I, 4 years old? Why can't I say hospital? In a children's oh my god! I shouldn't get too attached to any of the other patients in the children's hospital. There we go. Apparently I shouldn't get too attached because most of the kids die reasonably young. Of course, this made me petrified of dying young, though I mainly wanted to break the rule, to find someone. For months, the kids were too young. Okay? Too annoying, had too many questions, or were just simply boring. The thing with cancer is, yes, because I knew so much about cancer. The thing with cancer is, you never really want to be over the top excited all the time. You need more time to relax, to enjoy moments. There was only one kid who really understood this. Do you need to? I feel like people with cancer are allowed to be excited. If something happened to me and I had cancer, I'd still get excited. Why do you need to just relax the whole time and just sit there and be? You can be excited. You can feel whatever you want. Having cancer doesn't change anything. Anyway, what is going on? Let's meet this kid that Dan's talking to. His name was Theo, and he was the coolest person you'd ever meet. He was really down to earth and intelligent. He was funny without ever being mean. That is stolen from something. What is that from? He was funny without ever being mean. That is stolen material. That is plagiarism. And he knew every single thing to say at every moment. He was daring, the kind of person you'd wish to be, though someone you knew you could never become. He was the guy everyone wanted to be friends with, and for some reason, he wanted to be my friend. We clicked instantly. He had made a sexual joke about my nightgown, and we were instantly friends. He even convinced the doctors to let him stay in my room while I had treatment. He was the nicest guy, and with one look into his blue eyes, the doctors caved and let him stay with me. Ah, yes, doctors that just look into the eyes of patients and is like, I'll break protocol. Like, blue eyes is like a really generic eye color, is it not? I could understand if he had that disease that people used to lie about on Tumblr where they had purple eyes. If I saw someone with purple eyes, I'd be like, holy fuck, you can do whatever you want to me and to anyone else. But just blue eyes? Okay. Then I got better and I had to leave this place. I had to leave my best friend behind. I promised I would visit, and so on this rainy day, I found myself inside of his hospital room, laughing my head off. Dan, what do you call a penguin that is in the middle of town? Theo asked, his knees sitting upright on the bed. What? I asked teasingly. He had been telling me horrible dad jokes for the past hour. The past hour? How many jokes does this man have? Lost, he replied, and we both fucking lost it, throwing our heads back in laughter. My cheeks hurt from smiling, my stomach tensing every time I laughed, though it was so worth it. Is that joke that funny? No, it did not deserve that reaction. Why are you throwing your head back laughing? I fucking missed you, man, I said, stroking his knee delicately as I came down from my high. The high from the joke about what do you call a penguin that is in the middle of town. Lost. Okay. At least you ain't gotta sit in this hospital bed. You're off doing things in the world, making a life for yourself. I don't know why I've just suddenly given Theo an accent, but that's it. He sighed as he rested his head deeper into the pillows. He looked sad, an emotion I connected to. It's not all rainbows and sunshines being out of here, you know? I kind of wish I was back in here. I sighed, looking around. The walls were empty, though his bedside table was filled with things of sympathy. Flowers, letters, chocolate. Don't you dare, Dan. Don't you dare fucking wish to be back in here. What could be so bad out there anyway? He looked so disappointed, shaking his head back and forth in disgust. It was horrible in here. I knew that, but it's not all that great being out. I just miss my best friend. No one to talk to. Everyone is just so rude. This little fuckwit... This little fuckwit at school keeps calling me gay and keeps telling me to go fuck my boyfriend. Mum and Dad are never home, too much jobs to do. Adrian, who the fuck is that? Dan Howell has a brother, I think. I think that's who Adrian is. I could be wrong. I'm pulling that out of a brain of a 14-year-old. I'm pretty sure Adrian is Dan Howell's brother. Anyway, apparently, according to this, he's fucked off somewhere and I haven't seen him since I got out. Plus the whole death... The death? Of who? Is taking its toll on me. I've got no one, okay? I miss you and I want to be back in here so I can be with you, I ranted, my face becoming more flushed as I speak. Dan, you're with me now. It's okay. Look, every fucker out in the world doesn't matter. They are only worrying about themselves. This bully dude probably is too scared to even show his real self. And Adrian was never home. He's always out with his mates. Your mom and dad don't care about you that much. I'm sorry, but we worked this out ages ago. They don't want to see you while you're sick. That's a fucked up thing for a parent to do. My mum was chopping up a veggie bowl, putting on Jeremy Kyle and letting me sit on this couch and stroking my hand all day. What do you mean you don't want to see your child when you're sick? That's fucked. Anyway, why am I getting angry? I wrote this. I'm not sick, Theo, I glared. But you were, and they don't want to get too attached. They're using the hospital's logic. He comforted me, raising his hands to play with my hair. You'll always have me. Oh, fuck, I'm American, aren't I? You'll always have me, okay? On the off day that the nurse gives me my phone, I'll call... Why does the nurse have his phone? He's in hospital with cancer. He's not in a bloody psych ward. Why are they taking his phone off of him? You're allowed your phone in a hospital? What is this logic? But for now, keep on visiting me. He smiled while playing with a strand of my hair. Thanks, Theo. I miss you. I smiled down at him. I missed you too, Danny. I should probably get going now. Mum's planned a dinner for us and another family, trying to get me to be social, the bitch. I laughed, moving away from Theo. Good luck, you little fucker. I swear so much in this book. I swear it's around the time when I learned that I could swear, just not in front of my parents, but I could swear whenever I wanted with my friends or just writing it. And I took that and I ran with it. Anyway. I took one last look at him, and then I was off to the world's worst dinner. Wow, there are 4 more pages to go of the story, and I don't think anything has happened so far. I've hardly seen Phil. I don't think we're getting an ending. How are they going to fall in love and fuck by the end of this? We only have 4 pages left. Okay, this chapter is titled Make Mama Proud. I felt like shit when I arrived at home. Tears... Sorry, I just burped like a motherfucker. Oh my god, okay. I felt like shit when I arrived at home, tears welling up into my eyes. It's hard to be away from Theo so often when there is a massive chance that he will die before I see him next. Theo was always worse than me when it came to cancer. Cancer? That's how I'm speaking right now. Cancer. Theo was always way worse than me when it came to cancer. Constant treatments and surgeries needing to be done. And the motherfucker isn't allowed his phone. Guy could be dying. He's not even allowed to bloody scroll TikTok. That is crazy. He was always so happy all the time though, rising with his cancer. What is he, a bloody sourdough starter? He really rised with his cancer. I missed him like crazy and I hated leaving him. The more I walked through the house, the more intensely I could smell the freshly cooked baking. I think someone just knocked on my door. Hello? No one knocked on the door. I think this book is driving me insane and I am slowly losing my mind. Anyway, back to it. The more I walked through the house, the more intensely I could smell the freshly cooked baking. Mum never cooked unless she was trying to make an impression. Today must be one of those days. Mom, what are you cooking? I yelled loudly, allowing my voice to echo throughout the house as I made my way to my bedroom. Just some dinner, Daniel. Now please start getting ready for our dinner tonight, she yelled back, her voice only just being heard through my bedroom door. Oh, should I do like a...
I expect you to be changed and be ready by 7 o'clock tonight. The Lesters...
The Lesters, Phil's coming over.
The Lesters will be here at 10 past. They're making a quick stop to get their son, and then they will be here. Don't wear black. I've placed some nice blue clothes on your bed. Please get ready. Please hurry up, darling. Maybe you can come give me a hand in the kitchen? Thanks, darling.
I groaned once she had finished talking, my eyes trailing down to see the blue clothes placed on my bed. I hated the clothes she picked, the fancy idiot. That is the best insult you can call your mother. I hate her, the fancy idiot. She always wants me to look like an idiot. Gotta be fancy to impress the guests. I ran my hand quickly through my hair before leaning closer to the bed. I leant down. Surely it's I leaned down, right? I leaned? Come on, Eileen, I swear they're burning. Anyway, he fondled the fabric with his fingers, groaning at the itchy feeling material. With a groan, I heaved off my t-shirt and replaced it with the button-up shirt. It was tight and uncomfortable and made me look hella gay. Though if this is how my mum wanted to remember me, then so be it. Isn't he in remission? I swear we've worked out that his cancer's gone, right? And he's constantly talking about death. But he's in remission, mate. Like, why are we so terrified? I understand that cancer can come back. But, like, you're in remission. Things are looking good. You're back at school. Yeah, you're getting bullied. But you don't have cancer. You're not in a hospital bed having your phone taken away. Sure, you're only eating soft foods, but that's more of a choice that you're making. Anyway, this is so strange. I just don't understand any of the logic behind anything. I pulled my pants down slowly, the cold air hitting my thighs as I stepped out of them. I left them on the floor as I put on the suit pants, making sure to pull them slowly up my legs. I looked hideous, though the night would be over soon. Mum was going crazy in the kitchen. Pots and pans were littered everywhere. She had chopped up several I cannot speak or read. Why did I think this was a good idea? She had chopped up several... Oh my god! She had chopped up several vegetables, watching them boil in the pot. She had gone insane. Meat in the oven, cupcakes on the bench. It was nice, though, to have her home. She was always gone. Too many jobs to do. It had been my parents' decision to see me only when I was healthy because that's how they wanted to remember me. They never really saw me in the hospital because they didn't want to remember me like that. Hell, they didn't even know Theo. Deciding to not let the idea get to me, I asked Mum if she needed a hand in the kitchen. Hey, Mama, need any help? It's all right, Danny, love. Why don't you just go and set the table for me? Napkins are in the drawer over there, and glasses are up above the fridge. Can you do that for me? She asked nicely, raising her hand to stir something inside her numerous pans. Why is this mother explaining to her own son where things are in the house? Surely he would know that, right? He's lived there his whole life. Unless it's not his mum and he's been kidnapped. I don't think that's a plot point I was going with. Where were we? Yeah, sure, Mama. How many people are coming to tea tonight? I always acted proper around my mum. It was just the way she was. We were not acting proper on the phone when you were like, would you fucking care if I died as a young boy? That wasn't proper. That was proper asshole move, but you weren't acting proper, Jesus. There is 3 from our family and 3 from the other, so that equals 6 of us. Please be quick, darling. She talked quickly, her mind racing as she dashed around the kitchen. Her apron clung to her body as she moved. I breathed a sigh before quickly doing the task my mum had asked. Once I had come home from the hospital, I had to relearn everything in my house, the way things were done, the places everything was. There we go. That's why he doesn't know. How long was he in hospital for? And why did they just rearrange the whole house while he was gone? I mean, I guess they weren't visiting him because they're not going to see him when he's sick. What else were they going to do? Of course they had to rearrange the whole house. Though it was okay because being home meant I was healthy and being healthy was a good thing. So why are we so terrified of dying? A small knock fell at the door around 7 p.m. Mum was dressed in a red dress, Dad behind her in a suit. They were also prepared for this dinner. They must have wanted to make a good impression. Mum rushed out of her seat as soon as she heard the knock, squealing in delight as she opened the door. There was a small chatter before the family walked into the room. A nice-looking woman wearing a blue dress and pearls, a handsome man who sported a nice black suit and a smile, and Philip Lester, wearing a button-up shirt and suit pants. His eyes locked onto mine as soon as he saw me, his mouth turning up into a smirk. He winked at me as he walked in before sitting right down beside me on the chair. "Hey, gay boy. Nice house you got here," he teased, elbowing me in the side. I tried to force a smile, a quick laugh, anything to not upset my mother. "It is pretty nice here. The family is never really home, so it's quite tidy," I said with a chuckle, feeling my heart beat quicker in my chest. My eyes had grown wider, the presence of him startling me, though I tried to remain calm to make sure he was not aware of the terror he caused me, and so my mother no longer had to deal with the embarrassment she called Dan Howell. Wow, that is so real. "Don't play dumb with me, Howell. I saw you tense as I walked in the room. Tonight's going to be fun, isn't it? It'll be fun to wind you up a little bit," he whispered, coming closer to my ear. Ugh. His hand found its way to the back of my neck, making sure to pinch it. They are at a dinner table with a bunch of grown-ups. Surely they would have seen him do that. There's no way that you're not seeing someone lean over and go... But I mean, has any of the logic in this book made sense? Absolutely not. So I'm not surprised by that. "Alright everyone, tea is served. Sit wherever you'd like," Mum spoke up, making Phil remove his hand instantly. I relaxed once his hand was removed, making sure to stand up quickly. I was first at the table, though sat in my usual seat. Can you guess who sat beside me? Philip fucking Lester. Well, no shit, he was just sitting beside you before. Why would he change where he was sitting? They're so silly. "You boys seem to get on nicely. Do you hang out at school?" Phil's mother asked, her small hand stabbing a fork into one of the mini potatoes on the table. I laughed at her statement, a small nice giggle, before replying, "No, Phil and I have other friend groups, although we do have a few classes together." I smiled at the end of my statement, making sure to continue smiling and being polite. I felt Phil's hand reach down to my thigh as I spoke, pinching the skin, harder and harder. I mean, there could be worse things that he could be doing. Is pinching the thigh really that bad? He could be trying to chalk it. That was a really messed up thing to say, and I would like to formally apologize to everyone listening to this, which is just my mother. I'm sorry, Mum. I shouldn't have said that. "Oh, well, I'm glad you two know each other. Hopefully this will start a friendship," Mum spoke up, her eyes meeting mine instantly. She smiled. Truly smiled. My mum looked really pretty when she smiled. I love seeing her happy. "I don't think Dan really wants to be my friend. He is really rude to me at school. Maybe if we had a bit more time together, he would be nice," Phil said sadly, his gaze dropping to the floor. He was faking it, being a complete dick so that I would get in trouble. The parents all gasped at the comment. "Daniel Howell, I did not raise you to..." Why am I speaking like, you know, that scene in Harry Potter when Ron gets caught flying the car and then he gets, what's it called? A squealer? that like note from his mum, and it comes in on the dining hall table, and it's like, Ronald Weasley, you were caught if I ever catch you. That's how I picture Dan's mum. Not as the card itself that's just talking, but the voice of that. And you just heard me attempt it. It's clear I can't do it, so I will not be attempting it. But just know that that's what I'm picturing right now. Daniel Howe, I did not raise you to be a rude boy. You are completely disrespectful. Phil is trying to be your friend, and your horrible self... Crazy things to say about your son. Your horrible self has tried to harm him. Daniel, I do not expect this behaviour from you. From now on, Phil will come over every Tuesday, if that is all right with you, dear. You will help him with his homework and make sure you two get closer. I am very disappointed at you, Mum snapped, her eyes meeting mine. I could see Phil smirking at me from the side. It's not like you bloody raised me anyway. What was that about speaking only proper to your mum? What was that about only being really kind and well-mannered? Because that doesn't sound like it. It's not like you bloody raised me anyway. I was sick. I don't want to do anything with that fool, I yelled, placing my napkin off the table and running to my room. I slammed the door behind me and fell straight onto my bed, groaning as I realized the right telling off I would receive later. Fuck you, Philip Lester. And I regret to inform you that fuck you, Philip Lester are the final words in this fanfiction. I did not write anything else. Nothing else happened. That is how it ended in 2016. And to this day, I have not finished it. Here's what I'm thinking would have happened. I reckon that Dan would have continued to tutor Phil, and they would have secretly fallen in love. Phil would have realized that he was being homophobic and that it was just internalized homophobia, and then him and Dan would have had like a mighty fuck, like a crazy fuck. And then I reckon it would have gone from tutoring Phil in maths to tutoring Phil in anal sex. Again, I'm really sorry to my mother who just heard me say that, but it's true. Okay, and honestly, I would give so much money to get 14-year-old Jorja in the room and tell her that Dan and Phil are dating, and she was right. She wasn't right about the fact that Dan Howell had cancer. She wasn't right about Phil Lester being mean and a homophobe, but holy fuck, she was right when she said that they were boning. And I should have believed her from the get-go. And I should have continued writing that. Actually, I don't know if I should have kept writing that fan fiction. So that is the first taste at my fan fiction. Honestly, that's probably the tamest one. There wasn't a lot that happened. It was a lot of like trying to be angsty and glamorize illness and depression rather than having like a steamy sex sesh or any pining. It was just borderline kind of abusive. And look, my other stories, definitely way worse. There's a lot going on in terms of dynamics, and I feel like having shit parents was a pretty common thing in fan fiction. At least I hope it was common, because it definitely was a common thing in my stories. Anyway, that was the first fan fiction, and you should tune in for when I read another one. If you would like to be involved in choosing what the next fan fiction is, then make sure to follow me on Instagram at Jorjabaylee. Every single time that I do this podcast, I put up 3 options of stories that I am going to read. I let you know the summary of what the book is, and you get to vote on what it is. So if you'd like to be involved in choosing the next book, make sure to follow me on Instagram so that you know. But otherwise, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. I am still learning what I'm doing. I've never done a podcast before. I'm nervous. I feel like no one's going to listen, but I'm so excited to just really go through all these books again and just really have them stuck permanently on the internet. Thank you for joining me, and I can't wait to read again with you soon. Have a good week. Take care of yourself, and go and read a fanfic. Go and read Duplicity. That's a great one. Little Harry Styles and the Mafia. Anyway, I'm going to go read some fan fiction now. Or maybe I'll watch a Dan and Phil video just to really bring up all those feelings again. Alright, see you later. Bye. I got a bucket full of sunshine.